The equivocal number from the 1860s for 40 acres today is $200 million for each and every African American. You're not supposed to be afraid. You're not supposed to be afraid. You're just supposed to tell the truth. You're not supposed to be the gatekeepers. You're supposed to say what the people want and hear from.
So New York State has a reparations commission, and this commission with the bill was actually created in 2023. Now, what we're going to cover tonight is one sister that had a problem with some of the language that's being used with the reparations commission. Now, I want you to hear what this one sister has to say, because she's going to definitely point out an issue, and then we'll go to the text and so you can see it yourself why the sister has every right to say what she's saying.
First, I want to thank the commission for having everyone here tonight, and I am appreciative of the attempt that's being made at reparations. However, I'm very concerned about the language that's being used, in particular when we're saying African descent, because African descent can mean anyone from the continent of Africa. When we know that we're speaking about people that are Black, and that racializes things, and I'm concerned about that because the Supreme Court has ruled against racializing reparations of any sort twice now. We see that through the dismantling of DEI and through affirmative action. So this commission needs to be very careful about racializing reparations. And the only way that reparations can be actually paid is that reparations is a specific monetary payment for a specific harm that was done to a specific people for a specific crime. It is not the responsibility of the U.S. to try to remedy every country that participated in slavery. That is for a separate agenda when we're talking about discrimination. But since this commission is here for reparations, that is a specific harm done to a specific people that comes through a specific lineage. I am an American descendant of slavery. My ancestors have been here for hundreds of years. We also have to consider the fact that at what point do people from my lineage become American? We cannot allow for other outside interference from, yes, we know that we are descended from the continent of Africa, but my homeland is here. I have been here for centuries. My ancestors have been here for centuries. We are American. This is the state of New York. It is a state within the United States of America, which means that it can only address and only has the authority to address reparations for those that were impacted by it. That by slavery, by putting that language in your mission and by tying it to slavery, because you know that it has to be a specific harm to a specific people. If you're in a car accident, unless it's your car that was directly hit by the other car, that is going to be who the insurance company pays.
The commission. Well, here's the issue with Loree Daniel Favors being on the commission. Loree Daniel Favors is Jamaican. I like her show. She's pretty good, but she's Jamaican. Why would a Black American be on any commissions for Jamaicans? See, that's the stuff they pull. They put people who aren't of the lineage on the commissions. And they know what they're doing when they're doing this. They know exactly what they're doing. There's no reason to put people on the commission that's not of the lineage. But New York is playing a game. They're playing the game, the same game that Gavin Newsom was playing. Now, the language was a little bit more tighter with the California Reparations Commission, but this one here, and people of African descent, no. It is the freedmen and their descendants. Freedmen is a federal classification for our ancestors. Freedmen. That is a specific people of a specific group, the freedmen. There's only one group of people who have been the freedmen in this country. No other group of people was enslaved but the freedmen. And we are the descendants of the freedmen. In that bill, they talk about all this. They had more slavery in New York at one point in time than even the.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Yeah, This topic on reparation never goes away. Like everywhere, every year, year in, year out, we hear the Black Americans asking for their reparations. The reason it keeps coming up is simple. Nothing was settled. And until that happens, we will always keep seeing the same gaps, same patterns and frustrations. And I believe that instead of keeping quiet or shutting them down, have we taken the time to really hear them out? Like, what are they asking for? Why do they deserve it? And who are those that deserve it? We haven't taken the time to ask those questions. Well, for now, let's watch the videos and I'll be right back with more commentaries. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
All this nonsense, homelessness, and all this other garbage y'all talk about, police violence and all this stuff, don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody real care about that. We care about our reparations. And we have to put white people on notice that we want our reparations. That our foreparents and us, we didn't work for free and underpaid and all this nonsense. And the white folks get away with it. And they talk about the great city they're building. No, we want our reparations. $3 million per person. $3 million per person right here in this city. That's the only thing black people got to care about. All this other little nonsense y'all talk about, we do not care about.
This is one of the most well-articulated pro-reparations arguments that I've ever heard.
On race. It's based on status. A black person who comes here from Nigeria or Jamaica or Brazil, they're not owed a penny from America. They chose to come here. We are talking about the people who are freedmen, the descendants of people emancipated by this country. We still know those people because you are one of those people. I am one of those people. A lot of those people here in the audience, I just told you I could break down my genealogy. My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get homes and lands and pensions and the door being slammed in his face. And we are going to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay, get over it, keep it moving. But we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking it's going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it. And we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's start acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they...
Federal government's pledge of 40 acres and a mule to the formerly enslaved has long been known as a broken promise. But a new investigative report reveals that not only did the government grant land to hundreds of formerly enslaved people, it also took that land back and returned it to white Southerners. That 2-year reporting project done by the Center for Public Integrity, Reveal, and Mother Jones is now the largest collection of land titles from the 40 Acres program ever to be analyzed and published. I spoke recently with Alexia Fernandez-Campbell, a senior investigative reporter at the Center for Public Integrity. Alexia, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here.
So take me back to fall of 2021. You were working on an entirely different project unrelated to this. You're digging through the digital archives at the Smithsonian and you come across the name Fergus Wilson on an 1865 document. How does that change the course of your reporting?
I didn't immediately realize what I was looking at. I did some Googling. I'm like, this is the 40 Acres program. And I was thinking, but everything I knew about it was that it was a promise that was never kept. It's something that didn't happen. So to me, like that disconnect, we're like, oh, they're land titles. I don't think this is common knowledge.
So a lot of folks have heard this phrase, right? 40 acres and a mule. As you say, a lot of people thought, okay, this just never happened. And your reporting is called 40 Acres and a Lie. What's the truth behind this program? What do people not know?
What people don't know is that it wasn't just a promise that was broken. People will receive land titles. We found more than 1,250 people who got land titles, men and women. They picked out their plots of land, mostly on the plantations where they were enslaved. Actually, not everyone got 40 acres, which is another misconception. It was up to 40 acres. And then people were living there. They were planting their crops. They were selling them in Savannah. Some of them formed governments. They elected a sheriff. They were living their lives, and they lived there for like up to a year and a half before they were kicked off.
They were kicked off. I want to stop you there so you can tell us a little bit more and also remind people what it took you to get to the point of finding those 1,200 people that you did. You and your reporting team, you reviewed thousands of records, you conducted hours of genealogical research, you even employed artificial intelligence to sort through the millions of documents online. You mentioned these families, and we're talking about a stretch of land in Georgia and South Carolina, we should point out. How did they get kicked off the land that the government gave them?
Basically, because Lincoln was assassinated. I mean, they had promised this land. They gave land titles. The government said, this is yours. You deserve it. You're going to keep it. But Congress needed to make those titles permanent. They had a majority in Congress who were willing to do it. But Andrew Johnson, he was the vice president. He was a white supremacist. He sided with the planters who wanted their land back, and he vetoed every effort to make those land titles permanent.
So how were those families removed? They were literally forcibly removed from the land?
Some of them revolted. Some of them were pressured to sign work contracts, basically to work for their former enslaver, and some just said no way, and they left.
I want to name some of the people you uncovered here because their names have otherwise been lost to history. Fergus Wilson is one, Jim Hutchinson is another, Pompey Jackson is a third. You managed to track down some of their descendants as well. Did they know about the land and the history you're sharing with us now?
A lot of them did not, and I even spoke with one descendant who's been researching her family diligently. She lived with her great-grandmother, who was Pompey's daughter, and even she thinks his daughter didn't know. So she was amazed to hear this history.
You did a little more research to talk about the value of the land. This is an important part of your reporting here. 1 4-acre lot that you identified in Jacksonville, Florida, based on a sale last year, that it would, today, 40 acres would be worth $2.5 million there. It's not just the land that was lost here in your reporting. Tell me about what else you found.
Yeah, well, just that generational wealth that wasn't passed on. You know, this 40 acres land was all the coast. It's like expensive coastal real estate. We found gated communities, golf courses, and restaurants, incredibly valuable lands. This is wealth that was not passed on, and that's kind of what we're trying to show is the impact. This is not a history lesson only. It's the impact on people who are alive today.
The people who live there now, the communities that are there now, is any of this history part of what they know? Are they aware of it?
No, absolutely not. And it was very jarring for me to go to some places where there's no sign. Other than like the Habersham Plantation gated community, that's, I guess, that sign. But as far as the 40 acres that it was given to someone and taken back, there's zero signs.
Do you have any way of calculating the full loss of generational wealth here?
That was actually one of the hardest things to do. We wanted to, because there were like 75 plantations more where this land titles were handed out, but we couldn't find maps for all these old plantations to figure out exactly where they were. So we had to just use these examples. And the examples we found, some of them were like shocking, like you said, millions of dollars for 40 acres today.
So when you speak to descendants of these families, what kind of reaction did you get? I mean, knowing about the generational wealth that was lost, about the historical injustice that transpired here, what are their reactions today?
People have had a lot of different reactions. I would say a very common one was cynicism, kind of like, yeah, of course the government took it away. Like, of course we would be given land and my ancestors would be given land and be taken away. That was just the beginning of like many hundreds of years of like injustices against the Black Americans. So a lot of people were not surprised. There were some people who were surprised to find out they were personally connected to that history, but no one was surprised that the land was taken back.
There is a sort of what now component to all this, right? Is there a way to correct a historical injustice like this?
Some people have been asking if there's any legal recourse. Everyone we spoke to, the experts said that because they weren't permanent titles, that they needed to be basically ratified by Congress, there's no legal recourse, but no one's ever like challenged a situation like this in court. However, there are people that we spoke to who think that, you know, there is a moral issue here. It's such like a glaring injustice, and there are people with names who got land titles and descendants. Like, it's not just some abstract idea, like people lost this wealth, and that maybe there's a moral claim for like reparations or something like that.
It's just a remarkable piece of reporting. I know a labor of love for you and your team, 2.5 years of work there. It's online now for anyone who wants to read the whole thing, 40 acres and a lot.
Yeah, you know, the biggest thing I try to do when it comes down to my faith and my belief in Christ is I try not to hate. That is God's biggest thing with man, is that we don't hate and we forgive. But when you hear white people who you know are not strong as Black people are, because do you know that for us to get where we are today, for us to even be able to live the way we live today, you know how much strength that took? That's why I always say this generation could not have gotten us to where we are today. It took a strong generations of black people for us to exist today because of things that were done to us in the name of white hate. And all these white people that deny it, white people still to this day who are in the Klan deny that there's hate in this country. They're in the Klan. So I don't ever want to talk to weak people and have them tell me that's why I don't want to hear. That's why I don't get into these kind of debates and discussions with people. I'd rather discuss that with us and give us this understanding here. Let's move forward because we know what's been done to us. Look at that. You know, it took a hateful man, one hateful man, to be able to get into a governmental seat to reverse something that they knew in the bottom of their heart. They knew that they owed black people this. This is just yet another shame of this country. And do I think that we deserve reparations? I don't know about the we. I know that if they can trace the lineage of those people who were given the 40 acres and a mule and the lineage of the lineage of the lineage, then yeah, they need to do something about something. Because when you talk about generational wealth, it's like when I moved out to the suburbs, they owned acres and acres of land for their farms. Some of them had 100 to 500 head of cattle. And you can't do that without having acres and acres of land. And being white, when you can just pass your acres on to your kids and buy acres cheap and don't have people in the community rebelling because you're a certain color. When not life can go that easy for you, then there you are. But life was not that easy for black people. And this right here is the living proof of just one of the thousands of things that have been done to black people in this country. Yet we still prevail. We persist to exist. And that's the problem I have with our failures right now, the failures of our kids in education, the failures with the way we act with one another, how our communities have just fallen apart, no growth, no nothing. We got this plaza over there. Just think about that this morning, this plaza over there on the corner of Jefferson and William. No investment in it. And that's black people. It's in a black community, so it stands to reason it should be black investment. But we don't self-invest. We don't do anything. People want to say, that's because we were slaves and they put that in our heads. Shut up. My father didn't feed us. Did I starve my kids? No. My father didn't feed us. I didn't starve my kids. So don't give me that it's passed on from generation to generation. Like I said, it just comes down to where you want to be. You set your own standard and you go after it. So blaming white people for all of our shortcomings and our ills, even if it is their fault, like the guns in our community, we know that they've been brought down here by some white guy who had a trunk load of guns. We know this, all right? But nobody told you have to buy it. Nobody told you had to take it. We can't blame society for our shortcomings. So we need to wake up. We really do. Too much has happened to our people in this country for us to be the failures that we are and the failures that our children are these days. Black people, please wake up. This is 40 acres and a lie. And it proves just yet another thing that's been done to us. Wake up.
One of the most common responses to the fight for reparations is like, oh, why shouldn't we pay like every historical group that we've ever wronged? I think this question actually misses the stated purpose of reparations. A lot of people mistakenly think that reparations is supposed to be like an apology, which stems from a very Western idea of crime and punishment, which is like, oh, I did something wrong. Here, now I'm going to pay for it. That's not what reparations is. Reparations is a form of restorative justice. It's not so much focused on the past as it is the future. Because right now, race relations in America is fixated on a sticking point, which is that black people have been getting robbed. And you don't have to go back as far as sharecropping or slavery. Your parents' generation probably dealt with things like redlining, eminent domain, and urban renewal. These are processes that have consistently and systemically removed wealth from the black community and taken it elsewhere. Like Malcolm X said, progress is not just removing the knife out of your back, it's healing the wound. Notice that he also didn't say that progress was litigating the person that stabbed you. That's not really what we're about here. But the best the black community has ever gotten from America is promises that they won't do that specific form of oppression anymore. That's not progress. As someone who would never in a million years qualify for reparations, when you analyze Black American history, it is a history of getting robbed, and they're still getting robbed. And the thing is, the consequences of that robbery don't just fall onto the Black community. We all suffer because of this open wound that exists in our country. Until the United States can take accountability for the stolen wealth that it has built its empire upon, we can never fully progress. Reparations looks different in all cases, and we still don't know what it's going to look like for African Americans. But what we do know is that they're a necessary first step if this country ever wants to progress past this racial fixed point. If not, we're constantly going to be coming back to systemic racism and ultimately to slavery. Why are African Americans poor? Why are they less likely to own homes? Why do they go to jail more often? Why are they more likely to be the targets of environmental and medical racism? Because they keep getting robbed.
Reparations are an act of repair.
Now, Amanda Seals laid out 4 core assertions during her debate with the 20 Black conservatives, and I'm going to address the second one. The second one is her claim that Black people are entitled to reparations. I support and agree with this assertion, and here's why. Reparations have already been paid to others. When people dismiss reparations for Black Americans as impossible, I call nonsense. America has already paid out other groups directly. Jewish Holocaust survivors. Through U.S. Holocaust survivor programs and German reparations, survivors living in America receive monthly pensions, one-time payments up to $50,000, and medical coverage. The U.S. also allocated $26 million in 2022 for survival care. Japanese Americans. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act. Each survivor of internment received a $20,000 direct payment. Over $1.6 billion was distributed, along with a formal apology. Native Americans. Native tribes have exclusive programs not shared with the general populations. Billions flow through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, $3.4 billion for fiscal year 2023, and the Indian Health Services, $7.1 billion fiscal year 2023, and in casino rights, land rights, and tax benefits that generate billions in tribal-only income. Under the Refugee Resettlement Program, newcomers receive refugee cash assistance for up to 8 months of direct payments. In fiscal year 2023 alone, the U.S. spent $1.8 billion on refugee resettlement. So don't tell me reparations are impossible. America knows how to cut checks when it wants to. Outside of white descendants, no group contributed more to Americans' wealth than descendants of enslaved Africans. Cotton, agricultural, railroads, and even Wall Street itself was built on free Black labor. Yet we're the only group without exclusive reparations program. Now, see, the problem with Amanda Seals' assertion, she never explains how. As soon as reparations are announced, everybody and their mama is going to claim they're descendants of slaves. Now, who will qualify? Do 100% Black descendants get the full payment? Do biracial Black Americans get 50%? Do people with 1/4 Black get 25%? How do we even prove lineage when records were destroyed on purpose? Amanda and others throw out these claims without offering a realistic implementation plan. Even if the reparations were paid, there's no guarantee that money will stay in the Black community. Without financial literacy, discipline, and ownership, reparations could easily become a temporary payday instead of generational change. Regardless, if Black people waste the money, it's our right to do so. Yes, America owes Black people reparations, whether it's direct payments, exclusive programs like Native Americans have, tax-free business zones, or land rights. It needs to happen, but it will never happen until we stop playing a victim and demand with a serious plan what's rightfully ours. So let me be clear. Cut the check, U.S. government, just like you do for all other groups. I said what I said. Come back for my response to her third assertion.
So whenever the topic of reparation comes up, have you ever heard someone say something like, I didn't have anything to do with slavery and my ancestors didn't own any slaves? Well, I will lay out 2 instances over 2 videos in which African Americans have had wealth stolen from them, and none of which have anything to do with the labor of slavery. So it will make the argument of, why do I have to pay for something that I had nothing to do with, null and void? Also in another video, I will try to break down the cost of slavery, which is a little bit more complicated, although I do have figures from experts for the numbers. After the Civil War, the infamous 40 acres and a mule legislation was floated, but it was never passed. Instead, former enslavers were rewarded their land back. But what was the amount of wealth stolen from Black people in this instance? In 1860, there were a little over 3.9 million enslaved people living in America. Suppose a family of 4 were granted this 40 acres and a mule. That would be 1 million families of 4 receiving 40 acres each. That is 40 million acres at an average of $7,000 an acre today. You can Google that and get that average. That's a total of $280 billion of wealth stolen in the form of land. And that's not to mention what the land could have yielded via crops and or livestock. But what about the mule? That's 1 million mules. 3 Google sources tell me that the average cost of a mule is anywhere from $1,000 to $8,000. We'll meet in the middle and say $4,000. So 1 million mules at $4,000 a piece. That's an additional $4 billion in mules for a total of $284 billion. Just as a little perspective, that is about the annual GDP. The GDP is what a particular area makes, whether that's a city, state, or whether it's the country. That is about the GDP of the state of Louisiana. So that's the first instance in which monies were, or wealth in general, was stolen from black people.
We need reparations, and we need it now. There's so many ways that they can give us reparations. For one, they can give us a monthly check straight into our bank account. For two, they can make us tax exempt, no sales tax. When we walk into a store, we don't pay sales tax. For three, when we get paid from working, they cannot tax our check. Tax these foreigners. Tax white people. Don't tax us. We've already done enough for this country. We shouldn't be paying taxes. All right? Another way that they can give us reparations is they can give us land. There's so much land. I'm a truck driver. I see so much unoccupied land all across America that can go to black Americans. In Oklahoma, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Colorado, in Utah, in California. There's so much land out here that can go to black Americans as a form of reparation.
I 100% agree that the United States owes the black community reparations, and this is why. It's not about white people owing black people. It's not about white people being punished for the sins of our ancestors. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about white people standing in solidarity with a community that has suffered grave, egregious injustices at the hands of the United States government. But first, we must decenter ourselves in this conversation, alienate ourselves from our privilege, and hold the United States institutions and systems accountable for the wrongs that they never rectified. From slavery to black codes, to convict leasing, to Jim Crow segregation, to anti-black housing policies, to mass incarceration, we have never rectified our wrongs as a country. If you look at our criminal justice system, 1 in 3 black males carry convicted felon label. That is a real stat. Is it because they're inherently evil, or they just need more personal accountability, or is there something larger at play? All the data shows, by every statistical measure, the black community has been disproportionately impacted by every institution or system in the United States, from education to healthcare to criminal justice system to banking to housing, which we still have de jure segregation in effect today. And when it comes to housing, neither parties are absolved from this, because both parties were responsible for the de jure segregation that we see today. The New Deal by Franklin Roosevelt didn't invent the segregationist practice of housing, but it did institutionalize it. Restricting access to capital for black families while enriching white families, the big reason why we see the generational wealth gap we see today. And remember, public housing wasn't initially for poor people, it was for working class white families. But because of laws and policies implemented by the United States government, it reinforced segregation, because public housing was to reflect the racial composition of the existing neighborhood. And we had redlining and gentrification of neighborhoods, the residual effects of all these policies that we still see today. Reparations is about rebuilding and investing in the black community. Our government was held accountable to some extent for the grave injustices that we committed, the atrocities that we committed against Native Americans. We were also held accountable for the Japanese internment camps. But the United States government never made good on its 40 acres and a mule to the black community. Everybody else got paid. The United States was held accountable for these injustices. I'm a convicted felon. I had to pay a debt to society
to the United States government, to the state of Florida, for the crimes that I committed. I was held accountable. To this day, my past is still being used against me. In fact, if I were to go before a judge today, the first thing he would do is bring up my past and say it's probably a pretty good indicator of what my future will be. But we don't keep that same energy for our government. We don't hold them to the same level of accountability and to the same level of scrutiny. So if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know anybody, you're absolutely right. But our government does. And as citizens of the United States who uphold the Constitution, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to hold our government accountable. As taxpayers, as citizens of the United States, we all pay, not just white people. Anytime there's an injustice in the United States by a government agency, whether it's the police department, sheriff's department, any government agency, the taxpayers are always the ones that foot the bill. Why? Because in America, we believe in justice, or at least we say we do. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, I'm sure we can all agree that our government is corrupt. Stop allowing them to make us turn on each other. What better way to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters than to advocate to make right what has been wrong and never been rectified? People ask me all the time, what are my solutions to the problems that I speak on? Well, I can assure you that this would be a step in the right direction. This is the pathway forward. Reparations in America today.
Give me your strongest argument in support for reparations and reparations right now.
Reparations right now, and we should have been have reparations because foundational Black Americans built this country from scratch. If it were not for foundational Black Americans giving hundreds of years of free labor, this country would not be in the position it's in right now. And the whole argument was that was long ago. No, the money is not long ago. The money generated and the wealth is still here. Money doesn't disappear. It gets compounded and passed down through generations. The money has been passed down and the debt of slavery has been passed down generationally to us, and we have to be repaired. Nobody has a problem with Native Americans getting compensated. They don't say that was long ago. That was long ago, and they get casinos and they get compensated now. Nobody says, well, I wasn't there when the Native Americans are getting chipped off. No, I didn't have anything to do with Native Americans getting put on reservations, but my tax dollars go to help them. I didn't have anything to do with people being put in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. Some of my tax dollars go to that. I didn't have anything to do with the Japanese out here on the West Coast being put in internment camps during World War II. When they started giving them money in the 80s and 90s, that was some of my tax dollars. So 9/11, when those buildings went down in New York, some of our tax dollars went to the victims of that. I didn't fly no planes into nobody's building, but when it comes to us, everybody wants to waive responsibility. Everybody has benefited from the slavery of foundational Black Americans and the free labor that we provided the wealth for. Everybody benefits from that right now, and we are the only group has not been compensated. We have to be compensated for that.
And how do you argue against somebody that is against reparations, considering you said all of that, you will still have people say, I still don't support it.
But that's just I'm white and I say so. We call that I'm white and I say so. Listen, most of the country didn't support Black people being free from slavery. They didn't support that. It was Black people fighting for that. It was Black people who were the Maroons, and I got a movie about the Maroons coming out. Black people fighting from the swamps, attacking plantations. They were destroying most of the plantations in Florida. They don't talk about that. There were Black people fighting in the Civil War. If it weren't for the Black troops fighting, they would not have won the Civil War. The South was winning at first. They don't tell you that. That's why most of those military schools are in the South. They were winning until the Black people joined the Union. Then they started to defeat the South. During the Civil Rights Movement, white people didn't fight for our civil rights. White people were perfectly fine with us living on the other side of the tracks, drinking out of that water fountain over there. It was us stopping that bullshit. It was us moving the needle. They try to remix it now and say, well, white people were walking side by side. No, white people were perfectly fine with what was happening to us. Most white people did not want us to have civil rights. We said, no, we're going to get the civil rights and we're going to be treated like human beings. And then we made it happen. We're making it happen with reparations now. I don't give a damn what a white supremacist want or don't want. That person wants me somewhere butt naked, hanging in a tree somewhere. Damn what he want. I want us to get equal and just and equitable treatment, and we're going to get that.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to give credit to all the original content I have used on my channel today. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah. And back to the discourse of today. I totally support the Black American stand on reparation, sincerely, and I totally understand why this topic keeps coming up. Yeah, people don't seem to understand the reason for reparation. You know, when the Black Americans talk about reparation, they are talking about being stuck in cycles they didn't create. They are just tired of being told to move on while the effects are still there. Reparation is owed to the Black Americans, whether you like it or not. That's just the simple truth. Their ancestors spent several centuries working without being paid. And if you ask me, I believe they are owed millions of dollars, and I believe it is only fair to pay them. You know, I resonate with one of the guys, what one of the guys said in one of the videos, if you watch the videos, you know, and where he stated that the different forms in which reparation can be paid, and he made mention of eradication of income tax, which I totally support, monthly paychecks, no sales tax, you know, and the likes. I just feel it's, you know, it would be difficult for the government to just, you know, pay a large sum, like a chunk of the funds, like in millions and all that. But if they can pay these monies in little bits, I think it will help, you know, like the things I talked about, you know, monthly paychecks. It might not be a very big sum, just something, monthly paychecks. And if they can exclude them from tax, I think that will make a lot of sense. So when you're working, whatever income you make from the job you're working on, it wouldn't be taxed. I think that's a great form of reparation, if you ask me. And also sales tax, whatever you buy, there shouldn't be tax. You know, things like that. Because the truth is, they have already done enough for the country. They shouldn't be taxed anymore, if you ask me. And another way is that they can give lands. I'm very aware the United States of America has vast, you know, lands and all. They can give lands as well. These are just ways to pay back, you know, what the Black Americans have been owed for centuries. I think it is not too much to ask for, you know, some of these things to be done in as a means of paying back sincerely. If you ask me, I think so. But let's hear your comments. Let's hear your views. Let me know if you have anything contrary to add, or you have anything else to add. It might not be a contrary opinion, but whatever it is you feel, whatever your opinions are, I'd like to hear it in the comment section. Please, let's talk about this. So let the discuss begin. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming with me on my channel today. I really do appreciate it. And to all my returning subscribers, God bless you all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. Oh my goodness, I see your comments. Thank you so much. And if you're new on this channel, seeing this beautiful face for the very first time, please subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos. Thank you so much, guys. And until next time, have an amazing day. Cheers.